Okay, to begin with, I'd like to explain to everybody why I started this podcast to begin with. I kind of made a promise to God, and I told him if I went in for my new latest PET scan and I came back cancer free, I would start a podcast glorifying his name, and here we are. I, got, I went into my oncologist about a month ago, and he said, "You're cancer free." Of course, there's probably some microscopic stuff still there that will come back eventually, but I'll start from the beginning. I was just went to my cardiologist for a routine stress test, and they started off by doing the, what do you call it, sonogram. Anyway, the thing that, like, they look at women's babies in the belly, except they look at your heart, and they they found some fluid around my heart, and he said, "Take these pills and come back in 2 weeks." So I went home and took them pills and came back in 2 weeks, and he did it again. And they said, not only has it not gone away, but it's gotten worse. And he takes out his prescription pad, like he's going to write me a prescription. And he scribbles on it. You can't tell what he wrote, but he said, he tore that off and handed it to me. He said, "Take this to the emergency room and tell them you need emergency surgery." I said, "What? Me? Now?" And so it's a miracle I didn't run over somebody on the way to the hospital because I was freaking out. I was like, "What? I've never even been to the hospital in my life." Anyway, I get to the hospital and they ask me all kinds of questions. And, you know, the surgeon came in and talked to me and he said, "Have you had anything to eat today?" I said, "Well, of course I had breakfast and lunch, you know." He said, "Well, we're going to wait till the morning to do your surgery then. Just go up to the room and relax and don't eat anything and we'll get to you in the morning." I said, "All right." So I go up there to the room, you know, normal night. They come back in the morning, go in for surgery, and they cut me open and drain the fluid from my heart. I think they said 3/4 of a liter. And then he put another hole over here and put in a drain tube with a plastic ball looking thing. And I couldn't leave the hospital until that quit draining into that ball, which I was there 8 days. Anyway, and shortly after that, I got back up to my room and they come and got me and said, "We're going to go do a CAT scan." I said, "Okay, whatever. You were just in there. What do you need?" And went to a CAT scan, and the guys in the CAT scan room were saying, if the doctor doesn't come up there for a while, that's good news. If he comes up there right away, that's not so good news. So I did the CAT scan. Then they wheeled me back up to my room, and it wasn't 5 minutes, and that surgeon came in and he said, "Homer, I got bad news. You got stage 4 lung cancer." And I mean, you might as well hit me in the face with a 2x4. I was, oh, wow. I said, "Realistically, how long do I have to live?" And he said, "A few months if you do nothing." I said, "Well, let's do something then." And then a couple of days later, I was taking my first chemo treatment. They came over, I run tests left and right for the next few days, MRI and bone scan, brain scan. They wanted to make sure the cancer was just in my lungs, which is bad enough, but turns out it was just in my lungs. So they put in this PIC line that goes, it's a little tube that goes up your arm and down to the top of your heart. And that's where they hook up the chemo, the IV for the chemo. And by the way, PICC, PIC, stands for peripheral interior closed catheter, I think. Anyway, it, it didn't even dawn on me till just a couple of months ago. If I hadn't gone to my cardiologist that day and I had just lived my life like normal, like I would have been dead in a few months. So go to the doctor, guys, especially if you're like me in your 60s. Anyway, when I got out of the hospital, I went to go see a cardiologist, or what do you call it, oncologist, and started my chemo, and that lasted for like 5 months. And then we switched over to immunotherapy. And a short little note here, chemo is brutal. I mean, it will do a number on your body. And I'm paying for it still to this day. Anyway, and my oncologist was real negative, and I couldn't stand her negative attitude. One time I go in there and she said, "Well, all the tumors are gone from your lungs, but now you have cancer in your lymph nodes." And there's lymph nodes everywhere, but these were in my chest. It was called the hilar lymph nodes. I said, "Well, that's good news. I don't have any more tumors in my lungs, right?" And she looked like me, like I was the biggest idiot she had ever seen. And I thought, what the hell's all that? I don't get it. So I go home and I Google the cancer in the lymph nodes, and it turns out usually if you've got it in your lymph nodes, it goes everywhere else, your brain, your bones, your liver, whatever. So that's why she looked at me like that, I guess. But anyway, it didn't. It didn't spread anywhere. Matter of fact, I switched oncologists because I got tired of her negative attitude. And the new guy, he's like, "Well, let's go in and do a PET scan and see where we're at before we do anything." And the whole time, probably for at least a month, I was thinking positive. Every day I would say, "Thank you, Lord, for making me cancer free." And sure enough, I went in there. It's been about a month ago, like I said, and it was no cancer. It was in remission. And that's not supposed to happen. Only 1.8% of people go from stage 4 lung cancer to remission. So I'm special. Not to mention, only 19% of stage 4 lung cancer survivors, even make it a year. So, and I've been a year and a half, so I'm already winning. And I had, I had a lot of people praying for me. I think that had a lot to do with it. Positive thinking and prayer and treatments, I guess. I don't know. But I hadn't done a treatment for a long time. I think December was my last treatment. And another friend of mine that had cancer, he passed away. And I'm like, dang, did I mess up by skipping those treatments? I was just sick and tired of the whole thing. I didn't want to take them anymore. But I thought, man, did I mess up? So I was so glad to get that last PET scan. Anyway, so this whole deal is, I promised God, so there's no way to back out. I can't chicken out, even though it's difficult. It is extremely intimidating, but I'll get through it because, like I said, you promised God, you better. So, sorry about rambling on. Just please be understanding and support me and subscribe and like and share and put your comments in the comment section of what you would like to see in the future, and I can take it. Put whatever you want. I've already been through everything. But I plan on doing, I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to teach. I'm here to learn right alongside you. I'm going to do testimonials and interviews and try to unscramble the Bible and make it easier to understand, because that's most people's complaint is it's hard to understand. So I'm going to work on that. And my biggest pet peeve has always been people misteaching the Bible. They know it's wrong, but they'll still tell you the lion will lay down with the lamb. Well, that's not there. It's the wolf will dwell with the lamb. Anyway, I could do a whole podcast on those things. So it drives me crazy. Anyway, thank y'all very much for putting up with me, and I'll see you in a week.